Preparing for a data analyst interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 20 key questions you're likely to face. For each question, you'll see a sample answer, followed by the key points to cover. Subscribe, like and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. How do you approach a new data analysis problem from a business stakeholder? I start by translating the stakeholder's request into a measurable business question. Then I clarify the decision they want to make, the success metric, time period, and relevant segments. After that, I inspect available data, validate quality, and run exploratory analysis before deeper modeling or SQL work. I share early findings to avoid solving the wrong problem. My final output connects insights to actions, not just charts or numbers. While answering, focus on clarifying the business objective, defining metrics, understanding data sources, checking assumptions, performing analysis iteratively, and communicating recommendations in business language. Question 2. What is the difference between inner join, left join, right join, and full outer join? An inner join returns only rows that match in both tables. A left join keeps all rows from the left table and adds matching data from the right, with nulls when no match exists. Right join is the reverse, and full outer join keeps everything from both sides. In analysis, I use left join often when preserving a base population, like all customers, while adding transactions. I always check row counts after joins. Make sure to cover how each join handles matching and non-matching rows, when analysts use them, and common pitfalls like duplicate rows or unexpected nulls. Question 3. How would you find duplicate records in a table using SQL? First, I define what duplicate means for the business. It could be duplicate email addresses, repeated transaction IDs, or identical rows. In SQL, I usually group by the suspected duplicate columns and use having count greater than 1. For example, grouping by customer ID and order date may reveal repeated orders. After finding duplicates, I inspect timestamps, source systems, and ingestion logic before deleting anything, because some duplicates represent real repeated behavior. In your answer, talk about identifying the duplicate key, using group by and having, checking full row duplicates, and deciding whether duplicates are valid business events. Question 4. What are window functions, and when would you use them? Window functions calculate values across related rows without collapsing the result set. I use them when I need row-level output plus context, such as ranking customers by revenue, calculating running totals, or comparing this month's sales with the previous month. Functions like row number, rank, lag, lead, and sum over are common. They are cleaner than self-joins for many analytics tasks, but performance depends on partitions, ordering, and table size. Be sure to mention over, partition by, order by, ranking, running totals, lag or lead analysis, and why window functions preserve row-level detail. Question 5. How do you handle missing data in a dataset? I first measure how much data is missing and whether it is random or systematic. If only a tiny percentage is missing, removing rows may be acceptable. For important fields, I investigate source issues or use imputation, such as median values for skewed numeric data, or an unknown category for categorical data. I avoid blindly filling values because it can distort patterns. I document the method and test whether conclusions change after treatment. While answering, cover identifying missingness patterns, business context, deletion versus imputation, impact on bias, documenting assumptions, and validating results after treatment. Question 6. What is the difference between where and having in SQL? Where filters rows before aggregation, while having filters groups after aggregation. If I want orders from 2024, I use where order date equals 2024-01-01. If I want customers with total revenue above 1,000, I use group by customer ID and having some revenue over 1,000. This distinction matters because where reduces the raw data first, improving performance, while having evaluates aggregate results after grouping. Make sure to explain filtering before versus after aggregation, show typical use cases, mention group by, and clarify why aggregate functions usually belong in having. Question 7. How would you explain p-value to a non-technical stakeholder? I would say a p-value tells us how surprising our observed result would be if there were actually no real effect. A small p-value suggests the result is unlikely due to random chance alone. However, it does not prove the effect is important or guarantee the hypothesis is true. I always pair it with effect size, sample size, and business context. Statistical significance is useful, but practical significance drives decisions. In your answer, focus on intuitive explanation, hypothesis testing, avoiding common misconceptions, statistical significance, practical significance, and communicating uncertainty clearly. Question 8. What is the difference between correlation and causation? Correlation means two variables move together. Causation means one variable directly influences the other. For example, ice cream sales and drowning incidents may both rise in summer, but ice cream does not cause drowning. Temperature is a confounding factor. As an analyst, I avoid causal claims from simple correlations. To support causation, I look for experiments, natural experiments, controls, time ordering, and domain logic. Otherwise, I frame findings as associations. Be sure to cover association versus cause-effect, confounding variables, examples, experimentation, causal inference, and why analysts must avoid overclaiming from observational data. Question 9. How would you design an A/B test for a new product feature? I start with a clear hypothesis, such as the new feature will increase checkout conversion. Then I define control and treatment groups, randomize users, choose a primary metric, and set guardrail metrics like refund rate or latency. Before launch, I estimate sample size and test duration based on expected effect size and baseline conversion. During the test, I avoid stopping early unless planned. Finally, I evaluate both statistical significance and business impact. While answering, include hypothesis, control and treatment groups, randomization, primary metric, guardrail metrics, sample size, test duration, statistical significance, and avoiding peaking bias. Question 10. What metrics would you track for an e-commerce business? I would track metrics across the customer journey. For acquisition, traffic, CAC, and conversion by channel matter. For shopping behavior, I would monitor product views, add to cart rate, cart abandonment, checkout conversion, average order value, and revenue. For retention, repeat purchase rate, churn, cohort revenue, and customer lifetime value are important. I would also include operational metrics like delivery time, return rate, and margin, because revenue without profitability can be misleading. Make sure to organize metrics by funnel stage, revenue, customer behavior, retention, operations, and profitability, instead of listing random KPIs without context. Question 11. How do you detect and handle outliers in data analysis? I detect outliers using box plots, histograms, z-scores, IQR rules, and simple summary statistics. But I never remove them automatically. First, I check whether they are data errors, like negative age, or legitimate events, like enterprise customers spending far more than average. Treatment depends on the goal. I may correct, exclude, cap, transform, or analyze separately. The key is documenting the choice, because outliers can strongly influence averages and models. In your answer, talk about visualization, statistical methods, domain validation, whether outliers are errors or real events, and treatment options like capping or segmentation. Question 12. What is a cohort analysis, and why is it useful? Cohort analysis groups users by a common starting point, such as sign-up month, first purchase date, or acquisition campaign, and tracks their behavior over time. It is useful because aggregate metrics can hide lifecycle patterns. For example, overall retention may look stable, while newer cohorts are actually performing worse. I use cohort tables to compare retention, repeat purchases, revenue, or churn across groups. It helps separate growth effects from real user engagement quality. Be sure to mention grouping users by shared start event, tracking behavior over time, retention, churn, lifecycle analysis, and how cohorts reveal patterns hidden in aggregates. Question 13. How would you build a dashboard for executive stakeholders? For executives, I keep the dashboard decision-focused. I start by identifying the top business questions and selecting a small set of KPIs tied to goals, such as revenue, margin, conversion, churn, and forecast versus actual. I design a clear hierarchy, headline metrics first, trends next, then drill downs by region or segment. I include definitions, refresh frequency, and data quality notes. A good executive dashboard highlights action, not every available metric. While answering, focus on audience needs, business KPIs, hierarchy of information, clean visual design, filters, data freshness, definitions, and avoiding clutter or vanity metrics. Question 14. What is the difference between a primary key and a foreign key? A primary key uniquely identifies each row in a table, like customer ID and a customer's table. A foreign key is a field in another table that references that primary key, such as customer ID in an orders table. Together, they define relationships and protect referential integrity. For analysis, keys are critical because they determine how tables join. If keys are duplicated or missing, metrics like revenue, user counts, and conversion rates can become inflated or incomplete. Make sure to explain uniqueness, table relationships, referential integrity, one-to-many relationships, joins, and why keys are important for accurate analysis. Question 15. How do you validate that your analysis is correct? I validate analysis at multiple levels. First, I check row counts, nulls, duplicates, date ranges, and join impacts. Then I reconcile totals against trusted sources, such as finance reports or production dashboards. I test edge cases and compare results with historical trends to catch unrealistic jumps. For important work, I ask for peer review and confirm assumptions with stakeholders. I also keep queries reproducible so results can be rerun and audited. In your answer, cover sanity checks, row counts, reconciliation with known totals, peer review, edge cases, reproducibility, business validation, and documenting assumptions. Question 16. What is the difference between a dashboard, a report, and ad hoc analysis? A dashboard is usually interactive and used for continuous monitoring of key metrics. A report is more structured, often scheduled, and explains performance over a specific period. Ad hoc analysis is a one-time investigation to answer a specific business question, like why conversion dropped last week. Dashboards optimize for speed and visibility, reports for communication, and ad hoc analysis for discovery. The best analysts know which format fits the decision being made. Be sure to distinguish recurring monitoring, scheduled summaries, exploratory investigation, stakeholder use cases, automation level, and how each supports different business decisions. Question 17. How would you analyze a sudden drop in conversion rate? I would first confirm the drop is real by checking tracking changes, data freshness, and denominator definitions. Then I would segment conversion by date, device, browser, traffic source, geography, product category, and customer type. Next, I would break the funnel into steps to find where users are dropping off. I would compare against historical baselines and recent releases, campaigns, pricing changes, or outages. The goal is to isolate the affected segment and likely cause. While answering, discuss segmenting by time, device, channel, geography, product, funnel step, checking tracking issues, comparing baselines, and separating data bugs from real behavior. Question 18. What SQL query would you write to calculate monthly active users? I would first confirm what counts as active, such as login, purchase, or meaningful product event. A typical SQL query would group events by month using date trunc and count distinct user ID values. Make sure to define active user, use date truncation, count distinct users, filter relevant events, handle time zones, and align the query with business definitions. Question 19. How do you choose the right chart for a dataset? I choose charts based on the question. For trends over time, I use line charts. For category comparisons, bar charts are usually best. For distributions, I use histograms or box plots. For relationships between two numeric variables, scatter plots work well. I avoid pie charts when there are many categories, and avoid 3D effects because they distort perception. The goal is to make the insight obvious, not to make the visual look complicated. In your answer, talk about matching chart type to analytical purpose. Comparisons, trends, distributions, relationships, composition, readability, and avoiding misleading visual encodings. Question 20. How would you explain a complex analytical finding to a non-technical audience? I start with the business takeaway, not the methodology. For example, instead of explaining every model detail, I might say, retention is down mainly among first-month mobile users acquired from paid social. Then I support it with one or two clear visuals, explain assumptions in plain language, and quantify the impact. I also separate facts from interpretations. Finally, I recommend the next action, because stakeholders need decisions, not just analysis. Be sure to cover storytelling, business context, simple language, clear visuals, assumptions, confidence level, recommended action, and tailoring depth to the stakeholder's role. If you are still with us, congratulations. You are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.